Derinkuyu is currently perhaps the most impressive example of over 200 discovered ancient underground cities, villages, and various other subterranean dwellings around the Anatolia region of Turkey, where you can visit around 36 of these underground cities in the central Cappadocia region alone. They are generally thought to have been first created around 7 to 800 BC to take refuge from invaders. The underground city of Derinkuyu is made up of a complex and extensive series of tunnels and chambers. There are 8 accessible levels underground reaching a depth of around 60 metres and could house an estimated 20,000 people, but there may even be possibly more tunnels or passages yet to be discovered. It used to be thought that there were around 11 or 12 floors, as it gets increasingly smaller and inaccessible the deeper you go, making it very dangerous to explore. But now it's believed that there used to be around 18 levels, according to TripAdvisor and History.com and other sources. At the entrance are these amazing stone wheel doors which could be rolled in place to block outsiders from entering. They're estimated to weigh around half a ton each, so you could imagine a few strong people being capable of wheeling these doors into place. If they had a log or something to place in the centre hole also for extra leverage, I guess that would make it even easier. And you also notice the corridor outside is extremely narrow, so there's not enough room to even attempt to move the door from the other side. There is also one of these stone wheel doors for each floor in Derinkuyu. There are miles worth of tunnels to traverse. The site accessible so far covers around 11 square kilometres. It has a series of water wells and communication shafts, as well as around 15,000 ventilation shafts to provide fresh air throughout the complex. And this isn't the only site like this. There have been many types of rooms mapped, including kitchen areas, wineries, living quarters, chapels, tombs, and many others, but there doesn't seem to be any toilet or sewerage system. So did they relieve themselves in pots to empty on the surface? Or did they use one of the well streams as a natural sewage carrier? The city is so extensive, it's just puzzling that there isn't any apparent evidence for sewerage draining. Derinkuyu also connects to another underground city called Kaymakli through an 8-kilometre long tunnel. Kaymakli is also one of the largest of the underground cities discovered, which contains a remarkable formation of andesite with many holes, which was said to be used for cold copper processing. Could these cities also be connected to other underground complexes, but the tunnel just hasn't been discovered yet? As we already know, there's an impressive amount of underground cities in the region. There's probably so much that hasn't been excavated and discovered yet, as with most sites in this subject area. Also, as there aren't any original artefacts of any kind found, no original bones or wood or anything useful for dating, plus we know these underground cities have been used many times for different purposes over the millennia, and still used today, for mainly storage and stables for example. So it's extremely hard to date the original creation of these places, and with the lack of any writings or inscriptions, there is no solid clue to the original creators of these amazing labyrinths. And Derinkuyu is generally believed to have been first built by either the Hittites, possibly as early as around 1500 BC, or maybe even the Phrygians around the 7th to the 8th century BC possibly. However, the ancient surface towns were built around the entrances to these underground cities, and some believe this points towards the underground systems being found at a later time and being built around by the Hittites and possibly later cultures. So the question remains as to who were the first creators of these underground complexes, and why did they first retreat into the ground? As many people point out, if the invaders came and found the underground cities, there was only one entrance, so they could just wait and starve them out, for example. But maybe this was why particular underground cities may have been connected also. Another possibility is that there could have been major geologic or cosmic events happening for a period of time which forced people to retreat into the ground, like the YD at the end of the last ice age for example, as that lasted for over 1,000 years, and these days many underground bunkers and networks of tunnels are being constructed, many in preparation for a possible catastrophe or if a war happens for example. And that's possibly also due to it actually being relatively easy to do with today's technology, and that people feel like they actually have a purpose to build these. But there is no actual evidence for any of these ancient underground cities and tunnel systems being built for the purpose of refuge from invaders. so they may have well been built a long time before for a different reason, then later being rediscovered and used for different purposes over the millennia as they're so versatile. The fact that there are also no writings or carvings in the underground complexes also may support the original creation being extremely ancient, as you would expect at least graffiti type markings or other things possibly if there was a writing system of any sort, and the mainstream view is that these were possibly created at earliest around 1500 BC, but for example, cuneiform was a prominent writing form from numerous cultures for at least 2000 years before that, as well as other writing systems. Archaeologists from a local museum also noted how the majority of the tool marks indicate that stone tools were used to create at least the upper levels by the seams of it, which could possibly point to it being Paleolithic to some extent. But there is also evidence for use of metal tools on the lower levels. So to me that appears to indicate that perhaps the first 3 levels were the original construction, then the extensions could have been added later when they were rediscovered, or if the entire complex was built around the same time, then maybe the first 3 levels appear to have been built with stone tools because they were rushed, especially if there was some geologic or cosmic event occurring that forced a retreat into the underground as quick as possible. Or even if it was perhaps due to invasion threat as is generally thought, then when they had enough room dug out to live and work comfortably, they could then slow down to work more on refining their tools to work more efficiently. The whole region is rich in pliable volcanic tuff rock, so it isn't a tough material to carve into either, which is evident anyway by the vast amount of underground complexes they found. And they aren't the only rock carved buildings. The region is also well known for rock-cut churches and what are known as fairy chimneys, which are similar sorts of rooms and houses etc. as the underground complexes, but built into the eroded surface volcanic tuff, and they just look incredible. Also, just to quickly point out that there's a rock-cut church design that I find really reminiscent of the lost city of Petra, which is another mysterious site which is another place that's extremely hard to date its original creation. Could there be a link there somewhere? We'll have to keep this in mind while researching. It's remarkable anyway that they could create these extensive underground cities without any evidence of cave-ins even today. They even carved out pillars to account for possible weak points. Whoever created these certainly had a good knowledge of working stone and architecture. But if this was the primary material used in the area, which seems pretty evident, then these techniques may just have been discovered and practiced by the ancient people through trial and error, as there doesn't seem to be many precise or symmetrical areas in the underground complexes at all, so it was most likely done by eye from the guide of the experienced stonemasons or equivalent architects at the time. I do wonder though if the floors and passages get narrower the deeper you travel, possibly due to gradual compression of the rock over the thousands of years, especially as the volcanic tuff they're carved into is mostly a reasonably pliable material, and they've essentially made it like a sponge with all these caverns, so perhaps it's got a lower chance of caving in as compared to harder rock, especially with the vast amount of distributed pressure points from the miles of tunnels, rooms and shafts. It is about as close as you can get to a human-sized ant's nest, and for the most part it's held its structural integrity for all these thousands of years. There are many underground cave and tunnel systems around the world, and I'll gradually explore them over time whilst on this mission to discover the unknown mysteries of our ancient past. So what do you think? Could Derinkuyu and other underground cities possibly have been created as protection from a catastrophic global event in our ancient past? Or do you mostly think the imminent invasion threat also makes sense? After all, the rock is said to be easy to work, so with enough people and motivation these could possibly be created in a relatively short time. Well, please leave a comment with your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. Please share this video with someone interested in these types of topics, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care of yourselves out there.